Hi, Naomi here, and welcome to my channel if you've not been here before, and welcome back if you're following along with this series. Now today, I should say, we got in our last video we did the 2 wallet linnies, and for those of you who haven't seen that, please go back and watch the first one on how to make this. So we made 2 the same. I've made a lot of variations on this, but this is a great one if you've never made a wallet linny album before. So we made 2. As I said in the first one, I'm working on 2 identical sides, so I'll show you one side and then I'll let you know the timestamp to go back again and watch it again to do your second side. Okay, I'm working with black cardstock, as you can see. My paper line that I'm using, my DST for decorating, is Fresh Florals, and that comes in 5 colours in the pack. So you get powdered pink, lemon lime twist, berry dust, tranquil tide and fresh fig. Now tranquil tide and fresh fig don't really stand out very well against black card, and I want it to be really bright, so I won't be using those 2 colours. That's what I'm using. Now I know it says Fresh Florals and you're thinking, where are the flowers? Well, on the back of each of the sheet there's flowers. I'm just not a floral person, so I'll be using this side. And if you followed BAMP 2018, you'll know that, and you saw the extras video, we did bonus videos, then I did talk about using double-sided paper. I highly recommend it for making linnies, simply because it gives you twice the options with the one sheet of card. And with this one's even better because both sides, same colour, you can't go wrong really. Now, as we're making 2 identical, I will cut 2 of each, if it makes sense. So let me stop rambling about that. Important things to tell you about. Right, it's a lot easier as we're making 2 albums the same to just use the same paper on both albums, if that makes sense. So if your back sheet is this one, use that as a back sheet on both. If your top sheet on is this one, use that as a top sheet on both. It's easier for cutting and it saves a lot of thought of which ways around should I put things. Think about the order that you're going to put your papers on. Now, it may seem with BAMP 2018 that I just randomly picked out sheets. I didn't. I did have a good think about, will this sheet work with this sheet for each page. So I looked at the last page that I did, made sure the pages would work with that, and will they work well together. And I did that all the way through the album. So this is really easy because the colours all go together no matter which way I go. The last thing before we get started is directional patterns. I'll go to this sheet for that one. So with this sheet, my pattern goes a certain way. See? If I put it that way up on a page, it might look strange. And same again, if I put it that way up on a page, it could look strange because my pattern's supposed to go that way up. Okay, so when you're cutting, you need to think about this. Okay, so enough rambling, let's do some doing. So for your tools today, you will need your DST, your paper, whatever it is you're decorating with, your 2 wallets. You will need 2 brads. You will need a scrap of the paper that you built your pages with. Doesn't need to be that size, you just need a scrap. You will need post-it notes and pencils, because we'll do all of the cutting at the beginning and we'll label everything. You'll need your adhesive. You can use tape, you can use whatever it is you usually use. I'm using a wet adhesive. This is the best way to go if you are a beginner because it gives you some wiggle room to get your paper straight. Because I am working on black cardstock and this is just an optional extra, I'm actually going to be using black ink around the edges of my page just to take the white edge off, so that's an optional extra. And last but not least, whatever it is that you are cutting and scoring with. So let's clear the decks and get started. As I said in the first video, we're working in centimetres, not inches for this one. So we are going to do our first bit of cutting, and this is the largest piece that we'll be doing. So you need to cut this down so that it measures 23 by 23 centimetres. So we're going to cut this way. So the piece we just cut is for the back. It's going to go onto this section here, and the next bit that we are going to cut goes here. So what we need to do is cut a piece that is 12.5 centimetres wide this way. So you need to think about your pattern. If you've got a pattern that goes up the sheet, then this, you want to keep your paper this way up. So we are cutting 2 strips to 12.5 wide. And then we're going to go this way. So your pattern will now be going in this direction, and cut them to 13 centimetres. So you'll end up with 4 pieces, and we're going to label all 4 pieces inner, underside. Okay, captions will be at the bottom. Okay, I don't know if I've mentioned this already, that if the video gets too long, I'll split it into 2 segments, that they'll both go up on the same day. Okay, so we've cut the piece for the centre at the back, we've cut up inner, underside, we've done this for both albums. The next bit we're going to cut is the bit that goes here. Now the bit we're going to put here, and the way up you need your pattern is you need to be cutting across the page this way, if that makes sense. I'll show you. So we're going to cut at 22.5 centimetres. Oh, try again. No, go that way. 22.5. So your pattern, my pattern goes this way, faces up, yeah, so 22.5. That's why I say you have to think about which way is your pattern going. And then we're going to cut to 13. Okay, so 2 pieces at 13 centimetres. And we're going to label these inner top side. So far we've cut this piece, this piece, this piece, and the next bit we're going to cut is here. So we need to cut a piece that is 12.5 centimetres wide, and we'll need 4 of them because you want 1 for this side, 1 for that side, and again 2 for the other album, for the other page. Okay, and we can get all of that out of one sheet. So if you're using directional paper, your pattern needs to go that way. Okay, and we're cutting to 12.5, and we're cutting 2 strips. And then this way we're going to cut to 13. And we're going to label all 4 pieces outer, under. Okay, don't worry, there'll be captions at the bottom. So this is, all 4 pieces are outer, under. The next piece that we're going to cut is this side. We've just done this side, and it's the same measurements and the same direction. So rather than talk you through it, I'll just explain at the beginning, and then I'll speed up this part of the video. So we're going to cut with your pattern going this way, 9 points up, so it needs to be this way. So we're going to go 12.5. Okay, we'll cut 2 strips of 12.5. We'll cut them down to pieces that are 13 centimetres, and we'll label all 4 of those pieces outer, top side. Okay, captions will be along the bottom. I'm going to speed this part up. Okay, so on your album, on the front, I'm actually going to make the DSP, the pattern paper, a bit wider. So this piece is going to go here, and this is going to be 13.5 this way and 12 centimetres this way. So think about your pattern. If you've got a directional pattern, this way needs to be 13.5. Piece that we're going to cut is this piece. Now I have, from the pile that I've been putting on the left, I've actually got a couple of pieces that are going to fit and in the colour that I want. So my pattern needs to go this way, and we're going to be cutting 2 pieces that measure 13.5 by 5 centimetres. So I'm going to use my offcuts to do that. Right, I'm going to start this part of the video with a bit of an apology. Usually when I make these wallet ninnies, and I've done at least 7 or 8 in the last year or so, what I do is I make the blank, and as I've said before, you can bulk make these, and then I cut each page as I go along. So I cut stick, cut stick, cut stick, and I'm actually confusing myself by doing it this way, and I thought I was being clever. So what I'm going to do is say sorry again for not following through on what I said. I have gone round and I have inked the edges of all of my designer paper, my pattern paper, and the reason I've done this is it stops you getting that glary white line against a black card. You do not need to do this. It's just a step that I do because I'm working with black card to build my album. So what I'm going to do now is ask you to put aside the back page, put aside the 2 inner top sides, these 2 pieces, put them to one side, and I'm going to do a process video, so I won't be talking and it will be speeded up, just sticking in the rest of the bits. I'll show you how that looks. So I'm going to be sticking all of these bits in, okay? So as I've said, the only bit that we're not putting in for now is these, and then any bits that we haven't cut, we'll cut those afterwards, okay? It's just so I'm not as confused. I know where I am, because as I said, usually I'd cut that bit, stick it, cut that bit, stick it, and it's less confusing for me. So I'm going to shut up now and stick all these pieces in. Back in a sec. Have both of the albums done so far. Now obviously we still have these flaps, we still have this page, which is what these are for, and we also have, oops, this page to go. Okay, so what we will do next is this piece, because that's the easiest piece to do before we do the centre, because there's a lot that goes on with the centre, and then after that we'll be covering these bits. Okay, so the next piece that I'm going to teach you how to do is this bit. This is why I say use double-sided if you can. So you've got a flap within a flap, so to speak. Okay, now I'm going to do the scoring first with this, with both sides, to avoid people jumping ahead and getting this wrong. You need to score this side slightly different from this side, or your flap bit won't work. Okay, when I designed this page, the idea was that you could see there was a bit to lift up. So, and you need your pattern to go the right way up as well, which is why I say we'll score first and then we'll stick. So, your scoring tool. With your first piece, you need your pattern. See my pattern goes that way up. You need your pattern the right way up. And we are going to score at 10 centimetres. Okay, so you should now have, it's not easy to see, so you've got a bigger piece this side than you have this side. You won't be able to see it properly at the moment, but I'll show you that in a second. So we've put it in this way up with the pattern the right way up, and we've scored at 10 centimetres, and you will be able to see the difference in a minute. Now with your second piece, you see how my pattern goes up? Turn that piece upside down and then score at 10 centimetres, and this is what will ensure that your pattern is the right way up when we stick it into the album. Okay, so the first one we scored at 10 centimetres with the pattern the right way up, and the second one we scored with the pattern the wrong way up, both of them at 10 centimetres. So we'll put that up away. Okay, so turn it upside down, go along your fold line with the bone folder, so that goes that way up, and turn it upside down, go along with the bone folder. So you see now, both of these have got the pattern the right way up, the flaps going in the right direction, and they're ready to stick in. So we'll get rid of these labels. Open up our album. So this goes this side. I want to put in this one. Okay, so the one that's got the flap that side, my left hand side one, is the one that will do this. And the idea is that this flap will hold this page closed, because then you can lift that up and then lift that way. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll show you again. So you'll lift that flap up and then you can lift this way. It lets you add extra photos to this page. So we're going to stick that in now. Now, every time I do one of these albums, it's different. If you go back through my YouTube, you will find, I think, at least 2 or 3 other Wallet Mini albums I've done. There might even be a 4th one. I have done a hardcover double Wallet Mini before. I can't remember if I put it up on YouTube, but go and have a look. You may see that one, but there's definitely at least 2 or 3 others up there that I've done. Okay, so that's that side in. Now we're going to do this side, and again, when this is in place, you'll be able to lift up this flap, then lift up this flap. You've got more space for adding things. Okay, so we've got this. And next I'll show you how to do the centre, the back piece at the centre. Now some of you may remember this page from BAMP 2018. That I thought I'd better talk you a bit through the process more than I did in the last video, because we've been discussing directional pattern. Yeah, so you see my pattern goes up, and we want these to go open up, one this way and one that way, but we need the patterns to be correct, so I'm going to talk you through that. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do our scoring. So these measure 23 centimetres by 23 centimetres, which means we need to score a halfway mark, which is 11.5 centimetres. Okay, and then we're going to rotate, and we're going to score again at 11.5 centimetres. And then this is where your pattern is going to become important. To open this up, the piece that you have on the top, the piece that sits on top when it's closed, will be one of your two bottom squares. Okay, now in this case, if I open this up, it's this square. Okay, so I've got my pattern the right way up, and this one's going to sit on the top, so I scored diagonally that way. Now with this one, we want this piece, which is the opposite side, yeah, to be the one that sits on top, so we will score that way for the diagonal. So we're going to score this way up, okay? And that's why I said it was important for me to show you the directions, and that's why I didn't stick that one in yet. So I'm just lining mine up on my trimmer to score. So I'm just lining my corners up with the track that the score tool runs along. It's very important that you line this up properly or your page will not work. Now, I don't know if you can see that it does go through the centre. So I'll put that away because we don't need it now. So the way that you fold this is you go this way with your diagonal, use your dome folder, okay, and you're going to turn it over and you're going to do your horizontal and vertical folds. And then when that's together, you can see I didn't go quite straight somewhere. That's why I say it's important to get this accurate. Where have I gone wrong? Okay, so that one will open that way, and this one will open this way when we put them in the album. So the way that we do that is I want this to go up into the corner and open up like this. I still want a tiny bit of a border around the edge, so it's not going right into the corner. I've still got a few millimetres at the top and at the side that it is going into the corner because we're going to do something else here. Okay, so we're going to stick those two in place. Now to keep these in place so that they sit neatly, this is where you need some scraps. So I'm just going to grab those and I'll show you the next step. So now that we've stuck these two pieces in place, and you can see I've put one up in this corner, one up in this corner, they open up that way. Yeah. In order to keep these down, what I've created, I'll just find it in my pile, is one of these. This is where the brads are going to come in. So it's simply going to be put in place here so that you can turn it. It will need to go down into the corner a bit more. So that when you turn it that way, it holds the page down. If you turn it that way, you can open your page up. So as you can see, positioning is important. Because you want your page to be able to open freely. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put this one in place, and then I'll show you how I made it. Right, to make that little piece that I put in to hold things in place, what I have done is I've cut from the piece of the black cardstock that I used to make the pages, I've cut two pieces that are 4 centimetres tall by 3.5 wide. Sorry, 3 wide. This is 4 tall by 3 wide, and I've cut 2 of those. And then from a scrap from where we've been cutting pages, I've done the same again with my pattern paper. So that's 4 tall, 3 wide. The first thing we're going to do is find the centre top. So just measure along the top to 1.5 centimetres and put the mark. And do this on each of the 3 pieces. Now I use a craft knife when I'm cutting like this. You might want to use a pair of scissors, it is up to you. And what we're going to do is cut all 3 into triangles. And you don't have to do a triangle, you could just do a rectangle shape. You could punch out circles, whatever fits. Okay, we're going to glue these 2 together. Don't glue this one on yet. So with this one, we want to set it down a little bit so that you've got a bit of a border. And yes, this does mean that some sticks off, but that's what we're going to trim off. It's just, it's the easiest way I've found to do this. So I'm buffing the edges of mine with black ink, just so I don't end up with a glary edge. So I'll just do the top 2 parts of the triangle. And it's the same as you saw me do before. You're going to find a good position where you can have it so that it sits over, that you can turn it off, so to speak. Find a position that suits you. I'm going to go with there. Make sure it's not overlapping my creases. It will rotate off. Yep. And then I'm going to use my hole punch, or everyone's got a different name, pokey tool. Add my thread. Oops. And fasten my thread at the back. Now the back won't be seen. It's where I've been doing all my glue work. It's where the threads will go through. You haven't got to worry about covering that up. If you're doing this style, we're going to put it in a hard cover. If you were doing a wallet mini album, if you just wanted to use this as it is, then you'd need to stick a sheet of decorative paper over the back to cover all of this sort of work. You might even want to put a 14 by 14 piece of the same colour cardstock on there and then decorate that over the top. It's up to you. Okay, as I said, every single time I do these, I change them. I've usually got a shorter cover. I usually do them bigger. I usually put more flaps in, less flaps in, more pockets in. There's just so many variations on these. Okay, so we still have this bit, these bits to do. So my suggestion to you would be grab your pile of offcuts first before you go cutting any other sheets. Right, I have weeded through my offcuts and I've taken everything out of the pile that doesn't measure at least 13.5 centimetres by 4.5, because anything that's smaller than 13.5 by 4.5 is not going to work for what we're doing. So taking all of those out of the tile, and I've still got all of this left, and that doesn't include the bits that I cut wrong, because I did go wrong earlier in the video. So what you need to bear in mind when we're cutting pieces now is you need to cut 2 of everything. Yeah, because you need one for this side, one for this side. So the first piece we're putting on is this one, and that piece measures, because we did this before when we did that side, it measures 13.5 this way and 5 centimetres that way. So you need to cut 2 of those, okay? So 13.5 this way, 5 this way. So I'm going to use this one, the powder pink, because I've already got the day dust and then the line twist there. So then you just go ahead and add your adhesive. Now for this flap, we've got 2 that we need to do for each album, so we need 4 pieces for the top, and obviously they need to match. So have a dig through. So I could use, say, this one, or if I've got 2 of those, I could use that one. I think since I've already got this pattern, if I've got 2 of these, because the pattern's natural that it's a different colour, I'm going to go with this one. Now, one thing I should say is that with these, the reason I've put them like this to make it an obvious flap is because the One of the early ones that I made of these, I was told by the customer it wasn't obvious which bits you could lift and which bits you weren't. So I thought this was an obvious lift this up kind of thing. You can also add just like plain cardstock here in a towel colour, and you can put your journaling here or here. Or you can just decorate it with die cuts, use an edge trimmer, no, like an edge punch. There's lots of things you can do with these. I'm just going to cover them. So for each of the flaps that you've got, if you want to stick the two sides down and turn it into a pocket, you can. If you want to keep it like this, it's going to be the same measurements for the first four. So we will be cutting them to 13 by 13 by 4.5. Let's double check. So keep an eye on your pattern direction. Okay, so go ahead and cut. You'll need 8 in total. You need 2 for there, so this bit and this bit. You'll need 2 for the underside. Decide what pattern you want to use there, so that means you've got 4 for this album, and you want to match those 4 for your second album. So go ahead and cut 8 pieces that are 13 by 4.5, and then you can stick those in place. So what we have now is that's all done, and that's all done. We've got that on, so I'm going to do the other album as well, but I'll put that to one side. You don't need to watch me do those. So now we're going to do this flap here. So I'm going to go with, first of all we'll check the size. So we know it's 13 tall. This time we want to go 5 wide. So we'll get to go 13 that way and 5 that way. And again, you need to cut 4 pieces for this album and 4 pieces to go on that side. So remember, you're doubling up on everything. So let's check what I've got. That's a little bit short. I'll show you the right way up. That's a little bit short of the 5, so I'm just going to check if that's okay. I actually think that looks okay, so as long as I've got 2 pieces that look like that, at that width, I can cut that second piece down so it's the same width. Cut 2 pieces at 13 centimetres, and that covers the top piece, and then I've just got to find 2 pieces . That's too much of the berry dust. We'll go with the pink. So I'm going to cut 4 pieces of the green that are 13 centimetres tall, and I'm going to cut them both to the width of my thinner piece. Okay, so both do the same width, and my pieces that go underneath, they'll be 13 by 5, and I'm cutting the 4 pieces from here. So you need 2 for this album, 2 for that album. Okay, and then I'll be back. Now completed our 2 pages on minute wallet albums. So as I said before, you can use these as they are. You just need to add a piece to the back to cover where you've glued things down and your brad. Or you can continue with the tutorial, and in the next one we will be making a hard cover that joins the 2 of these together. Okay, so just to recap, we was going to talk about how many photos you could put in this actually. What I tend to do is not put one here. You can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So there's at least, if you put both of the albums together in one hardcover, you're looking at least 30 photos. Okay, so that's a lot in one album. And we've got the 2 there. So if you're just giving one of these away, that take 15 photos. As I said, you can add extra flaps. There's lots of variations you can do, but in the next video we will be making the hardcover that joins this together and finishes off the whole project. So thanks for being with me so far, and thanks again for putting up with me when I've gone wrong, but I really haven't been well recently. Talk to you soon. Bye.